Welcome back, beautiful souls. I can see many of you aren't subscribed, so I would appreciate it if you guys would subscribe. I also want to mention that this is something I always wanted to do, so I hope you enjoy it. Please remember, this is for fun. Jin's Day of Reflection. The joke that became reality. It had all started as a joke. A funny remark Jin had made one day to lift the spirits of his BTS members. "I'm worldwide handsome," he had said with his usual grin, earning laughs and playful jabs from his friends. It was meant to be lighthearted, something to make people smile. But over time, what began as a joke had turned into a title, and Jin found himself living up to it every day. This morning, as he stood in front of the mirror, dressed in a simple, well-fitted turtleneck and jeans, he couldn't help but smile at the thought. Who would have imagined that the joke would stick, that people would really see him as worldwide handsome? As he adjusted his hair in the mirror, Jin's smile faded a little. The truth was, while he loved making people laugh with his confident proclamations, the role of worldwide handsome had started to feel more serious than he intended. People now expected him to be flawless, charming, and confident all the time. Jin, with his natural humor, was good at playing that part, but some days it felt like more of a burden than a joke. Today, he was heading to a photo shoot, and though he knew he'd play the role perfectly, part of him wished he could just be seen as Seokjin, someone who wasn't always perfect, but who was always real. The photo shoot was scheduled at a high-end studio in the city, and as soon as Jin arrived, the buzz of activity surrounded him. Stylists, makeup artists, and photographers all greeted him warmly, complimenting his looks and joking about how worldwide handsome had finally arrived. Jin laughed along with them, giving his usual playful winks and smiles. It was easy to fall into the role that everyone expected of him, the confident, charming face of BTS. The camera loved him, and he knew exactly how to give the perfect pose, the perfect smile, and the perfect attitude. But underneath it all, Jin couldn't shake the thought. Did people still see the real him, or just the persona he had created? Between shots, as the makeup artist touched up his look, Jin found himself staring at his reflection in the mirror. His face was flawless, his hair styled to perfection, but he couldn't help but feel distant from the image staring back at him. The name Worldwide Handsome had started as a way to make people laugh, but now it felt like a mask he had to wear, whether he wanted to or not. Jin wasn't sure when the joke had stopped being funny and had started to feel like an expectation he had to live up to. He loved making people smile, but today, he wondered if anyone could see beyond that smile to the person underneath. As the photo shoot wrapped up, Jin thanked the crew with his usual charm, waving goodbye as he stepped out of the studio. But as soon as he was outside, the cool breeze hit him, and he felt a sense of relief. He had spent the whole day playing the role of worldwide handsome, but now, walking through the city streets, he could just be Seokjin again. Dressed in his casual clothes, Jin blended into the crowd, unnoticed by most of the people around him. He found comfort in the anonymity, enjoying the freedom to just exist without the spotlight on him for a while. Jin wandered through a nearby park, eventually finding a quiet bench by a small pond. He sat down, letting the calm of the moment wash over him. The water rippled gently, reflecting the late afternoon sun, and for the first time all day, Jin felt truly at ease. He loved the life he had built. He loved the fans, the laughter, and the joy he could bring to others. But sometimes he missed the simplicity of just being himself, without any expectations. As he sat by the pond, Jin realized that while worldwide handsome would always be part of who he was, it didn't have to define him completely. Jin pulled out his phone, scrolling through old photos from his early days with BTS. He smiled at the memories, the silly faces they made during practice, the long nights spent rehearsing, and the moments when they dreamed of success but had no idea how big their future would become. Back then, things had been simpler. There were no cameras, no titles, no pressure to be perfect. Jin missed those days sometimes, the days when he was just Seokjin, working hard with his friends and finding joy in the smallest victories. The photos reminded him that, at his core, he was still that same person. As the sun began to set, Jin realized that the quiet time in the park had given him something he hadn't felt in a while: clarity. The pressure to live up to the worldwide handsome persona would always be there, but he didn't have to let it control him. He could still joke, still make people laugh, but he didn't have to hide behind that joke. People loved him for more than just his looks. They loved him for his heart, his humor, and his kindness. With that thought, Jin stood up from the bench, ready to head home with a lighter heart. As Jin made his way home, he felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He had spent so much time playing the role of worldwide handsome, but today had reminded him that it was okay to take a step back from that persona. He could still be the confident, playful Jin that people loved, but he could also be Seokjin, the man who laughed with his friends, cherished small moments, and found peace in simple things. The walk through the quiet streets felt refreshing, a reminder that he didn't have to be perfect all the time. He was enough just as he was. By the time Jin reached his apartment, the sky had turned a deep shade of purple, with stars beginning to twinkle in the sky. He stepped inside, feeling the warmth of home wrap around him. Jin sat down on the couch, pulling out his phone to check in with his bandmates. He told them about his day, about how the joke of worldwide handsome had become more than just a joke over the years. His message was playful, but behind the words was a deeper meaning. His members understood him, and that was enough. They had always seen the real Seokjin, even when the world only saw the persona. With a smile, Jin set his phone down, feeling a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. As the night grew darker, Jin leaned back on the couch, thinking about how far he had come. The world would always see him as worldwide handsome, and that was fine. He had built a legacy on humor, charm, and a persona that made people smile. But tonight, Jin was content knowing that behind the jokes, behind the perfect face, there was something deeper. He was Seokjin, a man who loved his friends, cherished quiet moments, and understood the importance of balancing confidence with humility. As he closed his eyes, Jin felt a sense of calm wash over him. Tomorrow, the world would see worldwide handsome again, but tonight he was happy just being himself. Jin knew that tomorrow would bring more jokes, more cameras, and more expectations, but for now he was at peace. The worldwide handsome joke might have become bigger than he ever intended, but he understood now that it didn't have to define him completely. He could still be Seokjin, the man behind the charm, the humor, and the confidence. As he looked out at the twinkling stars above the city, Jin smiled softly. He was proud of both sides of himself, the confident prince and the reflective man. And tomorrow, he would embrace both with the same warmth and sincerity that had always guided him. As Jin sat in the warmth of his living room, the hum of the quiet apartment was soothing. He thought back to all the times he had used humor to protect himself from the weight of expectations, to keep things light when the pressure became too much. It had always worked for him, and it made people happy, which was what mattered most. But today, Jin realized that the people who truly cared about him, his family, his bandmates, his closest friends, already saw through the jokes. They appreciated both his humor and his heart, and that gave him comfort. He didn't need to hide behind the joke anymore because those who mattered already knew the real Seokjin. Jin smiled to himself as he stood up and walked over to his kitchen. He opened the refrigerator and pulled out the ingredients to make a simple meal. Cooking had always been one of his favorite ways to relax, a small way to ground himself after a busy day. As he chopped vegetables and stirred the pot, Jin felt the simple joy of creating something with his hands. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't perfect, but it was real, just like him. He realized that it didn't matter whether people saw him as worldwide handsome or Seokjin. What mattered was that he stayed true to who he was, both in front of the camera and behind it. The story emphasizes Jin's realization that those who truly care about him appreciate all sides of him, the playful and the thoughtful. The final scenes of Cooking in Peace reflect his ability to find joy in simple, real moments, grounding the story in a satisfying way that shows his personal growth. The prompts visually capture Jin's peaceful evening, balancing the charm of his public life with the genuine contentment he finds in his personal life. If you enjoyed this little fun twist, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like this video and share it with fellow fans who love BTS as well. Your support helps us create more engaging content that celebrates our love for all K-pop. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to bringing you more exciting, fun content.